comorbid, comorbid disabilities, autism, and visual impairment or sensory impairments and disabilities. You're all welcome to share in the chat who you are, so I have a little bit more insights into who we're working with, but I am going to go ahead and share my screen and just kind of give us a little bit of a back step into why we're doing this meeting, then share the agenda for today, and then get started. And if you want to come off mic and introduce yourself, you're also welcome to do that. And I will be bouncing back and forth between two screens. Hopefully, it will work. Otherwise, we will, reconsider the idea. And I saw someone put in this chat the information. Perfect. Thank you. Welcome. So to start, last time we met, there were some thoughts jot down, and I just want to highlight that this meeting is going to focus on two main things that were addressed or shared as areas of concern or things that people were not sure about concerning infographics. One of them was accessibility. So we will talk a little bit more about that. And there's some resources that I had already shared with Dr. Coffey and Dr. Lind that will be shared as well with you again if needed. And then I have a couple more that I think they didn't have before that I will be sending forward. And one of them is a PowerPoint with many resources, including web pages that I will be talking about that help you with this idea of accessibility. And it's just important to know that.
Oh, good. I got this.
Oh, sorry, let me break in a second. I hear somebody is got their microphone unmuted and so is breaking in. Can people please take a look and see if their microphones are muted, and if not, go ahead and mute them. That said, when we have a moment, we'd love people to unmute their microphones and chime in when we're ready. Thanks.
Thank you. So we'll discuss the topic of accessibility a little bit more, share some resources about that, and then we'll talk about best practices for creating infographics, which again have a lot to do with accessibility, just what is easier to catch the eye as well as to be able to engage other senses. And then our agenda for today specifically focuses on the resources that were shared about data visualization. The core principles and the guidelines for that are going to be priorities of topics as we begin. We will talk about accessibility as mentioned before. We will talk about interactive infographics. So you can create an infographic that's static, but then you can also use shorthand to create those. So we will use shorthand and just kind of do a brief walkthrough. And I don't know if you're able to share either by raising your hand, hitting the features, or just putting on the chat if you have access to your shorthand account. Our goal for today was to break into sessions and work on a project or begin to create a template. So just want to make sure that everybody has access to that, as a portion of our time together is going to be dedicated to that. Shannon does not have access. Okay. Anybody else who does not have access to shorthand currently? Okay. I'm seeing a few messages on the chat, Dr. Lin. Is that something that we can provide information for right now, or should it just be easier to be an participant observer for the meantime? You're muted. Oh, thank you, Rachel. It is a really easy platform. So
sorry about that. I think that is something that I'm going to have to follow up with a link and send to everybody following today.
Okay, perfect. It is a really easy platform and we're recording, so you will be able to come back and access the video and maybe play around with it. We will not record the breakout sessions, but the bulk of the information will be in the main group. Awesome. So let's begin with the primary resources that we're gonna share, and I'm gonna go into this screen so that it's easier to do that. There were some resources that I gave to Dr. Coffey. A few of them were the Schwabish chapters that I had mentioned before at the last meeting. So there are 3 of them in chapter 12, chapter 13, and then the 2 appendix. And each of them kind of like shares with just a lot of resources about what we could do with visualizations to make sure that they are appealing to the eye, that the individual who is going to be getting them has the information that you want them to focus on. So this is one of the chapters is specific on how to design and redesign your visuals. So you will get a copy of this chapter, and again, you can read through it or just kind of skim through and look for what is important to you, what are the elements specific that you're looking for that maybe you are more concerned about. Keeping in mind that these resources are very focused on business and economics type of things, and just how we can recreate that for education purposes, but it's basically the same. So chapter 12 and 13, again, designing them, redesigning them, and then redesigning them again. Just different ways in which you can repurpose them or just look at them specifically for what you need them to do for you. And then the last, the other chapter that you'll get access to is the tools that are shared within this book, Better Data Visualization. And then it's just a link or a list of everything that could be helpful to you. So you'll see things like this, and then you'll have information about each of those tools, like Excel, which is something that I mentioned is easy to do, and to create data and then be able to fix them whatever way you want to. So those are some of the resources that you'll have access to. One thing that I wanted to focus on right now was the core principles that Schwabish shares, and then the guidelines for that. You also have these very quick, and these, you can consider this an infographic, even though it's not. It's just a one-pager type of notes or paper information where you have the details of how you should create your visuals to be most appealing. So show the data, what it is that you're focusing on, and instead of just kind of showing everything, highlighting the primary things that you are seeking to draw attention to. Reducing the clutter, not using 3D images, but just kind of simplifying it. And then there's something we're gonna touch on that is like always starting with gray and then going from there. As you see here, everything is grayed out, and then the few countries that want to be like the main focus have been colored in. We also have the integration of the text. So having enabling that data series title and just positioning them in the best way possible. Having a little description underneath the title so that people can quickly understand what it is that you are seeking to address as you're discussing the information or as they're just looking through it and skimming through it. And then pre-attentive processing. So again, looking at how you are highlighting specific information to draw attention to what it is that you want the person to focus on. So you have access to this, as I mentioned, and you can read quickly through that. And these are all tools and resources that are coming from the Better Data Visualization book by Schwabish. And then the other feature or other information to keep in mind, starting to think about accessibility, comes back to this one, and it is a Word document. So you have these 5 guiding principles. showing the data, reducing the clutter, integrating the graphics and the text, and avoiding the spaghetti charts. So not including a lot of information into one single graph. And we'll see some examples of that. And then starting with gray, keeping accessibility in mind, which we will touch on more in detail in a second, making sure that the colors are good color contrasting so that individuals can actually see the information that is specific for people who have low vision. We have as well the text sizes, considering what text size and what in the fonts. We usually want to go with things like Arial or Calibri, like things that are more that the text is simpler, and when you write it, it's not very fancy and it doesn't create this bulk of clutter when information comes in. So looking at an example here, again, starting with gray, I'm highlighting the portion that is of importance in this pie chart and color coding the information to be
giving me a shot
to be coordinated. Again, we have someone off mic. Mute. That'll be
give me a shot. Just like Bluey is giving
chat. So we have the colors connecting to the data that we're seeking to draw attention to. And then the question drawing to the rest of the data. We have a little description of what it is that this is meant to be focusing on. And then we see that everything has been in dark colors so that it is not something that causes trouble for visualization. If you see that if I change it to white, it can become a lot harder to see. So that's just something to keep in mind. There's another example using qualitative data for the same source, looking here how the white is not as visible. And if I were to do the contrast in black, then all of a sudden the information pops a lot more. So keeping those things in mind, you can see here as well, the black versus the white, so you can play around with colors. And of course, if the contrast or the color in the background is a lot darker, then we may want to consider the lighter colors for the text. Non-examples would be information like this, where yes, we're seeking to do the blue and the red, but we can't really see the red C or the blue C or the percentages as clear. Just because of the shades of the color. Down here at the bottom, the 4 squares, we can see that if we kind of change that to a darker shade, it will be easier. And this is not my data information, so I can't really mess with it much, but just an example of how it is a lot harder to see and visualize the information this way. And then same thing with the same pie chart, just the colors, consider colors that are contrasting in and of themselves. So even though this is orange and gray, it doesn't make as good of a contrast. And these are often not colors that are for someone who's colorblind or someone who has a hard time differentiating between like yellows or greens. These might not be as helpful. So this is just a quick snapshot of like thinking about when I'm visualizing my data, when I'm creating it, how can I make it to be very useful for all audiences, especially if we're thinking about putting them, through websites and disseminating it at large. We want to consider that also in light of laws like 508 who require for things to be accessible. We also have this information that I wanted to briefly touch on, and it is a PowerPoint that you will have access to. This PowerPoint, it's a combination of 2 different presentations that have been provided to us at OSEP by Rebecca Sheffield and Eric Caruso on accessibility. And through this PowerPoint, you'll see on the notes information about the slides and also links to be able to play around with tools that they refer and recommend as information that can be helpful. So the PowerPoint has information on general digital accessibility, tips for that, for documents themselves, for presentations, and then for websites. we see, and then you'll see within the PowerPoint that there are some mistakes which were meant to be as helpful ways for us to see when and if there was an error within the PowerPoint presentation, and just interactive ways to practice. So what experiences have you had with learning about creating accessibility in digital tools? Would anyone like to share a little bit about that on the chat? Is it something that you're fairly comfortable with? Is it still something that you're learning and maybe struggling sometimes with? I was recently listening to a presentation where I heard someone say that they have a hard time with the descriptions and the captions or the alt text that goes into the visuals. Is that the experience for others in the group? Sarah shared that alt text versus the text on the slides, and sometimes having to take a little extra time at the beginning to set things up. Yes, that is definitely a concern, especially with Word. The cool thing about PowerPoint, and I'll be sharing a tool that, again, resources and references for use at leisure. When we have these presets, slides and the layouts, those are usually very helpful. And one thing that you'll find within this presentation is that you should keep in mind that you should use these layouts because they are already preset for it to be accessible. When we choose to insert text boxes and things like that, the screen readers kind of tend to lose awareness of where things are, and then we find this little investigate button to have be all over the place, and a lot of the text is not legible, readily legible. So it's just the best thing to do is to stick to the format, the layouts that are provided within PowerPoint, and then to insert things as you go. You can, click on the layout and type on the text box, and then just, copy and paste and cut and paste the same box, and then it will appear on your outline, or as was mentioned, what's actually on the slide. So looking at and kind of keeping in mind the view and checking the outline, you can see everything that is found within the slide versus what is on the alt text. The alt text is only related to the actual description of the visual image, as opposed to what is written on the slide. So the outline view shows you what's found on the slide. You can see in the introduction that I can see the question. The slide has the accessibility meaning. And then you see some that do not have any information on them. And that is accurate because there's nothing other than the header or the title of the shape. There are some that also have something, but then again, no content, because the only thing that's found is an image. And then when I click on this image, I can see that there is an alt text. So if there was a screen reader, there will be a description provided, and the description would read cartoon checklist and pencil. We want to keep in mind when we are just providing this alt text that PowerPoint and other features create generic ones. We always usually want to check them. So even if it says that you're all good to go, the accessibility checker says you're all good to go, you may want to just click on your images and see what kind of description was provided. If you copy and paste from the internet or a website, it may have an image description, but it may not be the image description that you want. Sometimes just simply saying logo of OSEP, it's perfectly fine. In this case, the description is also accurate and good. We don't want to oversaturate individuals with what the image says. It doesn't have to describe that the color is pink and that the boxes are checked in and the 2 boxes that are checked in are colored green. It's just a matter of letting the individual know what this image is mostly meant for. If it's not meant for anything purposeful, then we mark it as decorative and we move on. So those are a few little things, and you will find some information about that as you go through this presentation. You will also see information that has links to sites such as Title II with new regulations for accessibility. And then within I believe is this PowerPoint for accessibility checkup and demographics, you have the websites, as I mentioned, where you can go and you can play with color contrast. You can also check and kind of play around with the website and see the layout of it. So this is a really helpful tool for you to be able to have access to a variety of information on how to make any kind of document from Word to PowerPoint to your web pages accessible. And I believe the last thing that I wanted to cover from here, no, I think that's it. Perfect. So the next section will be for us to move into the infographic, but I want to take a moment to read some of the comments that I wasn't checking on, and then to see if anybody has any questions or thoughts so far. Yes, I see someone share on the chat a link to a site for color contrast. Yes, this is I haven't seen this one before. The one that I was looking at, it's from Vision Australia, and it's found within the PowerPoint. But this is also a good one to check. The cool thing about the one for Vision Australia, if I can find a way to find it here, is that it provides you with like a yes or a no, like it would give you a smiley face, a happy face, or a not happy face if your content is actually not as accessible as you think it's supposed to be, or the colors that you chose are not as contrasting as you think it should be. So those that's usually helpful. Let me see if it's, I think it's this slide. And then one thing also, if you are trying to post posters and things like that, just providing the description of what's on the flyer, it might be a lot easier than trying to put in alt text on this image. And then here we go for color contrast. We have this one, and then I believe there is another one shared on one of the tools that is provided through to shorthand. So this one you can put the text that you want, the information that you want, the color that you're seeking to choose, and see if the contrast is good or not, and the background, and then it will let you know if it's working or if it's not working. So you have this kind of information provided like this. And then, like I said, there is another one in this recording that is accessible through the SIG network. There was a recording done about a month ago or so, where the presenter shares the Vision Australia one with the smiley face and the links attached to that. I don't know if it's on the description of the presentation. We can see. No, she did not provide it there, but it is within the video, and you can access it, and I will grab it from there and send it so that you can have it readily available. Yes, that all content can be read by screen readers and color schemes. Perfect, thank you. So many good resources shared on the chat. That's so cool. Great, so going back to shorthand, Dr. Lind has shared before this link about what is an interactive infographic. It is pretty helpful, and it kind of talks more in relationship to what is shared in this presentation about creating stories. And you may feel like, well, I'm not looking to create a story or a website, so why would I use shorthand? And So what we will do is kind of show you how I played around with it to create a very basic infographic, so that you can use that as well. And then we will kind of break into groups and try to play around with our own data, our own information, our own ideas, and see how we can start generating that. One thing that I did forget that I wanted to share was this document on how to create a presentation on PowerPoint, which again, another cool feature of using that, of using PowerPoint is that you already have those preset slides. So you already know that things are gonna be accessible when you choose to do that. And this has the link within the Word document, but then it has all the steps also written out on the Word document. So you can access or use either or. This is kind of for these purposes. So you can reorient the direction of a PowerPoint presentation, such as this one. I can come here and do design. I can click on the size, custom, and then just choose to do portrait and then change the size to the paper letter size. And then I can see how I can maximize this because of the orientation. I can see how it changes this. It changes the page to now fit a regular size paper. And now I can just simply use the features on the slide to pick the type of format that I want, the layout that I want. If this is just, you know, a title and content, if I'm gonna add images, if I'm gonna compare and do different things, and then you can copy, you know, duplicate the same one if everything is gonna look the same. And just, you know, I'm gonna put text, I'm gonna put information, I will be moving things around. I'm not messing with this presentation, just wanted to quickly show you that. And all of this is shared within this blog of the individual, just talking about how you can create your infographic, again, about 2 pages long on PowerPoint, and just save it as PDF and you have it ready to go. So this is another cool tool and feature, and he talks about how you can create different levels of gradients and colors. So he gives a lot of nice, helpful tools to make it look, you know, as fancy as his is just shared down here. So that's something that you can use if you're interested in creating a presentation that again tells a story with a lot of visual content that you can very easily and readily just prepare on PowerPoint with the accessibility investigator button that you want to make sure has, you know, meets the requirements for accessibility. Awesome. Any questions or any thoughts before we move into shorthand? Oh, perfect. Great. Thank you. And then this is just a link about accessibility checklist specific to shorthand that again, we can share with you. It's very easily something you can find. If you type shorthand accessibility checklist, it will come up. But we will also share it with you and you'll have access to that so you can focus on specific things in shorthand that may or may not be accessible. Cool thing about shorthand as well is that it has templates, and if you stick to those templates, you know that your information as you put it in will have the proper headings and the subheadings and the content, and screen readers will be able to read the information on your website or, you know, on your presentation of an infographic on the shorthand website. So this is my shorthand, and this is the presentation that I think Dr. Coffey shared with you all. I kind of just basically translated the basic Word document that I had previously created in Word, and then made into a PDF and then put it here. And it's just really basic information just to show that you know, you can add different tiles and different things to it, highlighting the images that you want to put in, having something that kind of flows along as you are scrolling up and down. And then the different features, just as like you would want to do in a PowerPoint or a Word document, you want to embed websites and links. You don't want to put that HTTPS column, like, you know, // like, you know, it's hard to read things like that on a screen reader. So you want to just embed and have it as a hyperlink where it says click here. You can do that in shorthand and just have it readily available. And then add more sessions, and you can see on the side that it's telling me how many sessions I have. Within these sessions, I have the features to click between and add more sessions. And then as well as different things to do the settings. Cool things about shorthand is that you can embed things from social media. You can embed things from like SurveyMonkey. So it's more about like figuring out what it is that you want to portray on your infographic, or again, if you are doing storytelling, like in this webinar, the person talks about individuals that may want to do fundraising campaigns and they want to just highlight something specific and just share about that. So I highly recommend this presentation as a first step if you're looking to know more about how you can tell stories on shorthand and specific accessibility things about shorthand. Another feature is that the moment that you edit anything here, it is saved automatically, and then it is repopulated for the link that you use to share the information. So my share link is always the same. I don't have to be sending it again and again. Whoever has access to it, every time they click on that link, is going to find the latest information that I have put on my infographic on shorthand. So if for whatever reason I had information from last year and now I want to add something mid-year. For example, if we're talking about assessments throughout the year for school purposes, we put the baseline on and we talked about the importance of something, and now it's mid-year and I want to update that. I can come into my infographic, go into the editing tools, I'll update that, add that information, and whoever has access to the link is going to be able to see that. So you don't have to constantly be sending information again, sending a new document, which I think is helpful. It's also only seen by the members of the group that you haven't given access to. So you can also see that I am not able to publish my information. I have to request access to that. So it's not like anyone or, you know, any person you can grant access to perhaps a member of the team to work on this. So it's not on your shoulders to do, but you can tailor the features of like when they can publish and what they can do with that information. So those are some cool tips about that. And then if we don't have any questions, the next thing to do will be to kind of break into groups, and we're going to do a quick poll to see what individuals want to work on, and then just move on. And if you do have access to shorthand, I'd like you to try to find the shorthand basics, and then we will work from there. And Dr. Lane has posted the poll. We can take a few minutes to do that, and then we will break out.
And Soreen, thank you for this. While people are responding to the poll, I'll also use the airwaves to let people know that I intend to use responses from the poll to break into the breakout spaces. It should be set up to do that. However, sometimes we have technical difficulties. If it doesn't, then I'll create Zoom rooms and people will select which room to go in, or put in the chat which room they'd like to be in, and I can arrange them into that.
Sounds great. So the question, what content would you like your infographics to focus on? Specific content areas or initiatives, overall summative findings, overall formative findings from the data, one site's outcomes, or we have the same question twice, one site's outcomes, and then again, one site's outcomes. How can you access shorthand? You mean the access through the organization, through the SIG network? And I believe it is free. We have a free account through the SIG network, correct, Dr.
Sure. Yeah, I can talk to that. So the SIG network has paid for an account, and we have as many users as we have in the SIG network access to that account. And so once we're done with this meeting, I will wait for the recording to process, and I'll send out a follow-up email. And that follow-up email will be, of course, the resources that you've shared during this sorting, as well as how to access shorthand through the SIG network account.
Are we ready for the poll to close? Does
Yeah,
anybody
so far
have-
only 15 of 22 people have responded, 16 people. I'll give people just another few seconds to respond if they have not already.
And I know we have a few that do not have access to shorthand, so it's and you can still share what it is that you like to focus on, and then maybe Dr. Lane and I, as we're facilitating, we can talk a little bit more into that. I'm not an expert in shorthand, but I try to play around with it, and we will learn together if we have questions that haven't been answered. And while Dr. Lane is setting the groups, this is a template that I like, and I suggest that we start with because it tells you what to do with each box. And then you can, as you become more familiar with shorthand and what it is that you want to do, you can choose other type of templates. So this one, it's kind of talking you through what would go everywhere. So a simple, powerful editor, and then the basics of shorthand will be here, knowing what goes around. These are additional columns where, as you saw in my previous example, you can insert the visuals. And I see most individuals want to work on a specific content area or initiatives, and then summative findings. Perfect. So we can create groups for that.
Great. Sorting, unfortunately, the poll didn't create the breakout spaces. So to everybody in the audience, I've created 3 breakout rooms. One breakout room is for specific content area or initiative. The second breakout room is overall summative findings, and the third is overall formative data and one site's outcomes, since only one person responded to each of those. So people are able to pick their rooms. Room 1 is specific content area or initiative. Room 2 is overall summative findings, and room 3 is overall formative data and one site's outcomes.
We have it in the order that it came through the poll, 1, 2, and 3. Someone asked, how can I find the shorthand basics? If you have a shorthand account and you are in your account, you can click on create a new story. And once you click on create a new story, you'll see all the templates. The first one on the left side of my screen that populates is the shorthand basic one that I was showing you. There are others underneath, and then the one I created that I was previously showing as an example, I did it as a blank. But the shorthand basic, as I said before, kind of walks you through what to do with that. Notice that some others have like information if you're looking to do something journal related. And journal as in like, newspapery type of thing. There's one that can also walk you through that. Campus news, an editorial paper, a quiz. So again, I figured for the purposes of this training and meeting, the best one will be to start with the basics, and then we can look and see if something else would better fit the purpose that you specifically have for your shorthand infographic or storytelling. That answered the question. Oh, perfect. And I would I don't know if I mean, you can play with the free account. I would highly recommend just using the one that will come from the SIG network, since you will have access to the features that have been purchased, and it is something that is already free to you as a member. But for the purposes of these training, if you want to create a free account just so that you play around with it, you may not have all the features that we have access to, but you can certainly use that.
All right, Sordine, I've got the breakout spaces ready to go. I'm gonna open them and people can choose. I've renamed them into specific content, summative findings, informative data, outcomes. Are you ready to open them?
Yes, we're ready to go. And Dr. Lin and I will just jump between groups and assist anyone with the questions that they have and the thoughts that they need to answer.
Okay. So the room should be open. I see people are selecting their rooms and heading into it. And how long do you intend for this space to be used, Sordine?
Probably about 10 minutes just to get everyone started and just to answer any questions, and then we can come back and wrap up.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. I'm gonna hop on to a specific content.
Sounds good. I'll stay here for people who have got questions.
John, I'm not sure exactly what I'm supposed to select.
Oh, well, Rondalyn, it's up to you. You can pick any of the breakout spaces. The first one is specific content area or initiative, and that's what you would like an infographic graphic to focus on.
I'm
Go
I'm
ahead.
missing something. I don't see where I can select. That's the,
Interesting.
yeah, I think it's probably me.
Yeah, let me see if I'm able to. Where would you like to go?
I chose the overall summative findings.
I'm going to send you there right now, I believe, Rondalyn. If it works,
Okay.
great. If not, we'll try plan C.
Okay, thank you. Ah, there we go.
And Nitu, are you with us? Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining those rooms. There were several questions in the chat while people were in the rooms. I was catching up on the chat as there's been quite a lot of action there. And I saw quite a few people didn't have access. I know I said I would send an email that would instruct people how to gain access to becoming a SIG Network shorthand team member. However, if you put your email directly into the chat here, I can add you as a group member today already as well.
And Dr. Lin, there was a question about why use shorthand, and what's the difference between shorthand and any other tool like Canva that our participants are already using. If I kind of shared what the features of shorthand are that are also similar to Canva, and that I guess it's a matter of preference at that point. But if you can chime in a little bit on why you guys chose shorthand as the primary tool for the SIG network.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So we found shorthand to be relatively slick way to disseminate things on the internet, rather than it being slides or just posters. You can scroll down through it, and for people who have accessed the SIG Network newsletter, that's what we use for it as well, is shorthand. And so we've just found it to be a user-friendly, both for the person creating the story using shorthand, but also user-friendly for the inline reader to scroll through the content as well. And then I will also say, we also liked how it operates with us being able to purchase one account and then add all SIG Network members as team members to our account so that they can create their own stories.
Excellent. I am answering a question that was asked, and then we got disconnected. Does anybody else have any other questions? That this is just a first step. And again, if you go into that previous meeting that happened a month ago, that's published on the SIG network about using shorthand, you will see just the question is that, are we gonna continue to meet and talk about this? And I'm assuming that, Dr. Lin and Dr. Coffey will provide more opportunities for all of you as you all gain access to this tool to come back and then do more workshops and do more and share more information. We can answer your questions. I hope that some of them, at least on the topic of accessibility, were addressed, and you will have access to a lot of resources that can help with that, but then that can generate more questions. So as you have the need, just reach out and let them know so that we can provide you with opportunities to come together and address them.
And Soreem, I know Annette, who is on the call with us, has used shorthand to create stories in the past. Annette, do you have anything else to add that maybe I didn't in explaining why shorthand?
The only way I can describe it, and it may not make sense until you actually play around with it and have exposure to Microsoft or Google or Canva, is it's just a refreshing tool. It's so easy to use, and to me, it just helps grab the attention of younger audience members who are, digital natives, and they're used to things in 3-second sound bites. You can pack a lot in shorthand in 3 seconds, and it's a quick scroll, and they're on to the next, next topic or subtopic or whatever.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Thank you all for joining us. I have shared all the things that I needed to share. So if we have no more questions, we're good to go.
Well, thank you, Soreem. I really appreciate the time that you've taken to do this. I know Jennifer Coffey really appreciates you as an intern at at OSEP. So thank you for taking time beyond that to present to our members. anybody on the call, just know that if you've got questions about shorthand or how to sign up or whatever it may be, feel free to reach out to me at signetwork@uoregon.edu. With that, we will say goodbye to everyone, and another thank you to Soreen. Thank you.
Thank you all.